Okay, so just wanted to confirm that we are streaming live on Facebook again. Just we're of course still waiting for folks to come in, so feel free to keep your cameras off for now and yourselves on mute. And then, as we get more of everyone coming in, we'll start shortly.
Just quickly, let me say hello to you, Tara. I remember you from Gail Brewer's office.
Yes, hello, how are you?
I'm good, good. I'm here for Frank. I think you sent me the invite, so you know. But anyway, good seeing you.
All right,
Just quickly, let me
likewise.
say hello to you, Tara. I remember you from Gail Brewer's office.
Sorry, I'm just making sure that the stream's working. It's a bit of a delay. Sorry for that. And actually I realized I think I'm going to just change your name, Val, because I think yeah, it came up a little bit incorrect. So let me change that. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
We know you're not Frank. But we just so others know.
Okay.
All right.
And Tara, let me just apologize. I just found out that I'm getting a repairman that was due at 6 o'clock that I didn't even know anything about at all, but they're coming earlier, so that I might have to like step off and come back.
Sure, no worries, no worries. We understand 2 hours, especially when we're all home, a lot of things get mixed in. So feel free to mute, take off yourself off camera, and no worries.
Okay, good. Thanks.
do you think, Tara? Should we give it like 1 more minute? It's 4:05.
Yeah, I think 1 more minute's fine, and then we should go ahead and start.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. And I can only presume more people are going to trickle in. Welcome everybody to the June 2021 CAG meeting. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. Before I turn it over to DDC, I see that Borough President Brewer is with us. So I just want to see if you want to say anything.
No, I appreciate it very much. I will listen, and I want to thank you for continuing these discussions. They are incredibly important, and I think it's the one way that the community can get transparency. So I appreciate it. You know, it's important, and so I keep listening, and I thank you.
Thanks, Borough President. I also know Senator Hoylman was planning on being here and wanted to say a few words. I do not think he's here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so we might be hearing from him later. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to DDC.
Desiree, you're muted. Yeah, I think you're, okay, there you go.
Okay, is that better? Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I just want to let everyone know that I am in a kind of a low cell service. I'm having some internet issues, so I'm going to take off my camera. I usually keep it on throughout the whole presentation, but I'm going to take it off today to just kind of reserve that bandwidth. So thank you all for being here today, though. Again, I'm Desiree Gazzo from HNTB Lero, the PMCM. We're here with our colleagues from DDC and other colleagues from HNTB Lero, and we're happy to be presenting to you for our 10th meeting now on June 3rd. So we'll start in just a second. Okay, perfect. So just to run over the highlights of today's presentation, first we'll go over an overview of contracts. I think after that, we're going to do a quick Q&A, and then we'll go over construction progress, which includes an overview of the sequencing of work for PA2, a couple of PA2 updates, couple of slides on community engagement, which should go pretty quickly, and then we just have a couple of what we've heard updates, and then we'll do a final Q&A. So this is our project area overview slide. We have it in, every month, and it just shows the project area 1, project area 2, and parallel conveyance. For the overview of contracts, I believe Jeff Margulies is on from DDC, who will kind of give us an update on project area 1. Jeff?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, I see nodding heads. Great. Thank you, Desiree. Hope everyone is doing well. As it states here, we actually awarded the PA1 contract to the apparent low bidder at the end of last week. So the procurement continues to move forward. It doesn't change the second bullet, which is what we stated, I believe, at the last meeting. We worked with Parks to extend the field permits until the end of August, and East River Park as a whole would remain open through the end of August. So that is the general update. We don't have any schedule updates. I know that's everyone's next question and concern, but that is the current status.
Great, thank you, Jeff. And then for Project Area 2, as everyone knows, we're under construction in the area of Vassar Levy Playground and the north part of Stuyvesant Cove Park near the Solar One building, and then kind of that area in between under the FDR overpass. And then for parallel conveyance, we are expecting the bid advertisement in the coming weeks. So I think we're going to do a quick Q&A here. Just to get kind of any questions out of the way, and then we'll go into construction updates.
Is there, may I ask a question now?
Io, you can start, and then Diane will be next.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Fine, it's fine.
I apologize. So is there any word, Jeff, on the communication with the Parks Department with regard to priority for permits for leagues and teams in the area now that the closing has been pushed forward to a later date?
We did share your question, your concern, I should say, right after the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree, we sent that over to Tara and Paula, correct?
Yes, we
right.
did. We sent over all of the replies from the last meeting. I'd have to pull that up to have it, but I think Paula and Tara, did you end up sharing all of those responses with the CAG, or?
I am not sure, actually. This is not.
We'll see this, yeah.
What'd you say, Tara?
I don't recall seeing it.
Yeah.
I have to.
I might have missed it. Let me note that down, and I will look for it now while you guys continue.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm sure you're not surprised. Their general response was that they do prioritize the local leagues. Again,
Mhm.
I can't speak for beyond that in terms of how they process the permits. I'm not sure exactly what their process is, but that was their general response,
Okay.
and that they ensure that anyone who lives locally, like the youth leagues, are given priority to those fields. But that,
all right.
I know you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna just reach out to the borough commissioner, or whatever the title is, office, and just check in myself on that. And then I'll have a definitive answer. But I'm not sure that, the leagues are aware that the time for getting permits has been extended, so they might not take advantage of it. So I'll check in with them. And then I'll look for Paula or Tara to forward the response that you did receive.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Io. And I know that, from our conversations, I think Parks has been in touch with all the leagues, but I'm sure when you follow up with them, they can also chat with you about that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Diane?
Hi, Jeff. Last month when you guys met with us, you talked about the fact that there was a lawsuit between the contractors. What's the status of that? Should we assume that that's resolved now that you've awarded the contract, or you've been able to award the contract because it was resolved?
No, that was part of the discussion before the lawsuit was filed, that we could proceed with procurement. I mean, everyone understands the urgency of this project. The lawsuit is however, still ongoing.
Okay,
So it has not been resolved as of yet.
okay. So what you're allowed to do is procurement
Correct.
at this point. Okay, so that's what's proceeding. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Wendy?
So back in December, while the CAG was meeting, there was a foiled soil and water report that was done by AKRF in 2019 that was released. It's about a 2,000-page report, and we've now had time to look through it. And in the recommendations, it says, quote, and I can put it in the chat if you want, access to public recreational facilities and areas undergoing construction for the proposed ESCR project should be restricted to the public to ensure all safety protocols are adequately met. Now, here it is right there. There's only 3 or 4 recommendations in this 2,000-page document. And given that the soil report includes lots of information on exceedances of different chemicals, and they point to the fill that's currently under the park as well as the manufactured gas plant residue, but primarily the fill. My question is, first, I have a couple questions. There's a great deal of text devoted to how that material will be handled. How much of that material is being removed from the park?
I'm not sure we have all those answers for you right now, Wendy, but that's something we can get back to you on.
Well, maybe Desiree, maybe there's some approximate number. Is it half of it? Is it just the top 10%? Is there some information you can?
No, I think it's different, throughout PA1 is my understanding. But I think if we want to have a conversation around, that report or that letter, it would be best for, we have conversations with Pratt in advance of these meetings, and we kind of, prepare for certain topic matter for each meeting. And if that is, something you're particularly, or the group is particularly interested in, then we would, make sure we come in with more information on that topic. We're not the specialists on, every part of the project. So it would be, helpful, as Jeff said, we don't have that kind of information right at the tips of our fingers. So if that's something, yeah.
So this committee, the CAG, does have an environmental committee within it. And, there's a lot of concerns about this issue. Now that I've read through this and seen a little bit, there's only 2 paragraphs on the incoming fill in the remediation action plan. That's an 85-page document with 2 paragraphs on the incoming fill. I'd also like to know more about it states that it's 750,000 tons of fill coming in. There was testimony during the ULURP hearing that only about 10% of it could be could be provided by the New York City Clean Soil Bank. So to me, that's a really big concern for community residents who will be living adjacent to the park. The dust from the material coming out, as well as the dust from the material coming in. Can you tell us more how that both the outgoing and the incoming fill will be handled?
You know what, Wendy, I do think that your questions are kind of involved. So if we can we get that? I can follow up with you and we can get that written out, and then we can have a prepared response from DDC. I think, okay. As I mentioned, they would have come prepared if they had known, so we can absolutely work through that if you can send us an email.
Okay, and I did send an email yesterday referring to this, that there's concerns about it. But in any case, one of my big questions is this: 42% of the park is to remain open. Is this going to be adjacent to areas under construction? Because this document, that's one of the very few recommendations in it, that the public should be restricted.
So,
Yeah,
when
so
we appreciate a lot of your questions, and they're really poignant. Unfortunately, we weren't prepared. We didn't bring any information. The team who's on right now is not able to field your questions because we need the experts, the soil experts. We need those kind of people who understand better what's happening. We don't want to misinform you, just give you random information just to answer you. You actually want to give you concrete information. So
Okay,
if
I'll
you
give you
can,
those are the 3 questions then.
okay,
The
perfect. Yeah,
material
and-
in, the material out, and the percentage of the park that's to remain open. How is the public to be there in a safe way when construction is underway? And I know there's signage in other parks about toxics, like Veterans Park in Staten Island. But in this case, the soil is being disturbed over 45 acres. So it's a big concern. I'd also like to say, here's a question that was promised for this month repeatedly, which is the report from the monitors up at PA2. So last month you promised them for this month, but they're not on the agenda. Last month you said that you had them, but you were formatting them.
Yes, and we will have them to you. All of this information may take a little longer to give to you, but again, as Desiree mentioned in the past, it's a lot of data. So if we were to dump all this just data on you,
Ophelia, last month you promised it for this month because you had 30
Well,
days, 30 days to organize it. So
I didn't promise. So I didn't promise, and we're working on it, and we will give it to you. We don't have it at this moment, but we will have it to you. So I understand that you're frustrated, but we're doing our best to get this information to you. And right now, we will circle back with your inquiries. Let us do our homework, and then we will respond.
I would really like to see this for the July meeting. This, if we are having a July meeting, you know, this is public health. This is not something that's to be lightly considered, especially given the pandemic and the number of people in our community that for 20 years have suffered from 9/11 dust as well as everything else. You know what's there. Now more of us know what's there. So let's start working on this. Thank you.
Christine?
Hi, yeah, I just have a follow-up question about the contract because I thought I remembered from last meeting that we were told that you're not going to proceed with the contract or award it until the end of June. I might have misheard that, but I have that down in my notes as one of the takeaways from that meeting. And then I'm also wondering, what does that really mean that you awarded? So does that mean that the clock is ticking now and that we can expect 3 months from now construction to start?
Oh, I don't remember saying that we would not award till the end of June. Maybe someone can jump in if there was a specific reference that I may have made.
No, I didn't hear you say June. I didn't hear you say anything about June.
Sorry if that was misconstrued. No, so basically the award of the contract is the last step before the contract goes to the comptroller for registration. So that is the final step before we can issue what's the notice to proceed for construction. So now we have to get the contract ready to go to registration. We submit it to the comptroller. They have 30 days by law to respond with questions or register the contract. And then once it's registered, we can issue the notice to proceed to the contractor. So those are basically the 2 next steps that have to happen before construction can start. And then, of course, the contractor they have to get permits. They have to provide a safety plan for, not a safety plan for the community, but a safety plan for construction, the DDC. And, you know, they have to adhere to all the agreements that we've already committed to, that we've discussed in this forum and others. So there's a lot of things that have to happen, but, you know, we don't have, as I mentioned up front, we don't have the exact schedule yet. We're still, once the contract is registered, we'll have a better sense of what that looks like.
Thank you.
Sure.
Maris?
So I just want to make a quick statement that I think is important to make. I feel that, you know, we're all here, most of us in good faith to be able to get answers and provide some level of community oversight when it comes to this project, which we all know has a very controversial history. And many of us have a lot of obligations. So when we set aside an hour and a half of our time to come here, it's because we are hoping that we're going to get answers and results. I do understand that people need time to prepare. I understand that there's a lot of data to search through, but this is a recurring theme. And so what I'm going to ask of the city and anyone else who's here to work with us is that when you make a commitment to this CAG that you are going to circle back, that you honor that. If you cannot meet that commitment, that you let our facilitators know in advance so that they can prepare us, so we're not on these calls going back and forth about why and who didn't and what didn't, when we should be talking about the real issues and the content. So we've asked before, there is a running list of letters and points that we want to know. There are, notes for these meetings. Anyone who's coming here from the city or otherwise needs to look at that, needs to be prepared, and needs to make sure that they are not wasting our time and being responsive. And I'm saying this because I will not continue to participate in this CAG if this continues in this way. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Damaris. Wendy?
So following up on that, last month, Jeff, I asked if Pier 42 construction is indeed stalled out, and you said you would check on that. Is there any update on that?
Actually,
I believe that was part of the update we shared with Pratt.
yeah, no, we do have and I also did reach out to Will as well. Unfortunately, they are going to be resuming the construction, so they are not able to move the barrier because they're just working through some of the process.
So my follow-up question, there's people who have been reporting that it's very dusty there. And I wonder if there's a dust control plan on that end, dust coming off the Pier 42 area.
You were a bit choppy. I'm sorry. You were saying that runners are reporting dust?
Yeah, that it's very, very dusty over there and that there's like clouds of dust when the wind blows at Pier 42. Is there a dust control plan for it?
Okay, that we would have to find out. Again, that's an EDC project, so we can reach out to EDC.
And then can I ask something about the parallel conveyance? I see the bid is coming up in a few weeks, the coming weeks. What's the timeline once the bid is put up?
It's about, again, the PA1 contract was certainly unique, but it's about 6 to 9 months of additional procurement.
For the parallel conveyance?
Generally speaking, for any contract of this nature. Yes.
So if everything went completely smoothly, what would be the earliest that would be in place? Because that's what's really going to protect us if there's a major storm, right?
The parallel conveyance is for the bathtub effect inland.
Yes.
So I mean, we also want to space out work, but we'll have to get back to you. I don't know the approximate start time for the parallel conveyance, but we can come back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, looks like right now we're good. We can move ahead with this next part of the presentation, Desiree.
Thank you. All right, if you could, okay, so we'll go into construction activities. So again, in our conversations that we've been having with Pratt, where we do, exchange thoughts on, what the upcoming presentations should be on, there was a concern that perhaps the kind of sequence of construction wasn't exactly illustrated very well. So we did want to take a couple of minutes just to kind of go through what that looks like for PA2, and then perhaps in one of the next presentations, once we come a little bit closer to PA1 coming on board, then we can go through a similar presentation for PA1. However, it will be very similar to this, but there are a couple more elements, you know, in PA1 compared to PA2. So typically, for the construction sequence, there is, and we've had slides on kind of general construction sequence as far as, you know, the contractors making submittals and, you know, the paperwork that they have to do, site safety, and those kind of activities. But once they kind of start getting out into the site and doing, you know, working on actual construction tasks, kind of the first thing is the test pits to locate the utilities, to kind of make sure that before they start, you know, doing any type of work, you know, they know where everything is and it's according to the plans and drawings. So that's kind of the first step. And then the second step is the utility work. So in order to build the flood wall and the flood wall foundation, some of the existing utilities, and we all know that there are so many utilities, you know, under the city streets, so they need to be moved or relocated, or, you know, follow those plans for kind of moving everything out of the way so that they can start the flood wall construction. And, you know, again, this is the kind of typical sequence. Once one kind of level or one task is quote unquote finished, you know, it's not necessarily finished. They can go back and forth. You know, there might have to be test pits and utility work after some sort of pile installation, but generally, you know, this is how it works. So then after the utilities are moved out of the way, then they can start the pile installation. And that's the step that we're kind of at now for PA2. And we have more photos of the construction and the installation of the piles a little bit later in the presentation. But the pile installation is next. And there are several different piles, and I believe we've talked about that, you know, before, and they have kind of different functions. But then once all the piles are installed, you know, in this line of where the wall is, which is purple on this slide, then they start the concrete foundation for the flood wall. Then they start erecting the flood wall, and once the flood wall and the elements of the flood wall are completed, then the last part is kind of the site elements, the materials, the roadway, the park elements, the sidewalks. And again, it's not to say that, you know, all of the flood wall needs to be finished before they start doing restoration of the site elements, but this is just generally, you know, as they finish an area, this is how it will go. So we did want to just give you an overview of that. Again, it will be very similar for PA1, except for PA1 has a couple more elements, obviously, that are different than the PA2 area. So again, you know, as stated earlier, and I think, you know, with some of the specific questions we were getting, some of the answers as far as sequence for PA1, again, we won't know until the PA1 contractor, you know, has gone through this procurement phase and is, you know, has a schedule and has a phasing plan, you know, so a lot of that, again, you know, we had it, I know we went through this before PA2 started, and it was like, well, when will we know, but we do have to, you know, wait until the contractor is fully on board to get some of those answers for you. But we did want to help you understand a little bit more of this sequencing, and that's what's happening right now in PA2. So if we look at the PA2 construction progress, we wanted to kind of put together like a phasing chart that follows this kind of the sequencing of the steps here on the left, and then we have the different areas as they match up with the map kind of in the bottom. And again, this is just for this kind of first phase of PA2, and then you'll see in the next slide when we get to it, you'll see the different phasing. But generally, we're hoping that this would kind of, I know there has been an ask in the past, you know, for how do we chart kind of the progress of the construction. So this kind of shows you that test pits. Again, one step is never completely, you know, quote unquote complete, but we'll mark that as, you know, near complete, because of course they could go back and perform more test pits. But generally, the majority of the test pits are complete. The utility work, you know, there's still some utility work that is ongoing, but we're generally moving into the pile installation now for most locations. And then we're hoping that we could, you know, keep moving through this, and then eventually at the end of the project, you know, we'll move down this chart and everything will be green, or at the end of this phase. So, you know, we are trying to put the information forward in different ways to help, you know, everybody understand where we are in that progress, you know, with that construction progress. And then we'll do the same, you know, something similar for PA1 when that comes on board. And then again, just, you know, we've put this up before, just that reminder of the different phases of PA2. And again, you know, the question of how will PA1 be phased? And, you know, this we were just able to, right, put out just only a couple of months ago, even though the contractor had been on board for a bit. So it does, you know, it does take a little time for everything that the contractor is submitting to get approved. So just a reminder again, you know, it's the phased construction. There is, you know, once this first part of phase 1 is completed, then that kind of northern part of the park will be open, and then the construction will be, you know, in the middle of Cove Park, north of 20th Street. And then it will move down, you know, once Astor Levy is open, and then Murphy Brothers will move into construction in the second half of Cove Park will be completed. So there is that phased approach. So now this is getting into where we're doing the pile install right now. So the Astor Levy Playground and the north end of Cove Park is where the pile install is currently happening, and then the upcoming area will be in this area number 2 here under the FDR, as we look to start bringing the Solar One wall or pile install north, and then to eventually kind of connect with the Astor Levy portion. And then this is the current traffic pattern that came into effect yesterday or today. I think we just finished it up. This does temporarily open up pedestrian access on the northern portion of the intersection, which has been closed for a while. So, you know, there are some changes from the last traffic pattern, and we will issue kind of an updated advisory. But, you know, again, always please take caution when you're going through the intersection, and we will keep you updated as this changes. So here are a few site photos. This is the sheet pile installation at Astor Levy Playground. Again, there are several different types of piles. These are the sheet piles, and as you can see, it connects to the VA hospital wall there, and then it will continue, you know, and then kind of take a jog, head under the FTR, and then connect with the Solar One pile install. And here are some more construction photos. And that's the kind of rig that installs the piles, and, you know, as it needs to, it moves from one location to the next. And then these are the H piles at the north end of Cove Park. There's Solar One. And then this is the work that's going on here. The sheet piles are just kind of in this picture, they're just behind or just on the water side, and then the H piles are just adjacent. And now we're just going to go into we only have a couple of slides, so we're just going to go through the rest of the presentation, and then we could take Q&A afterwards. So for community engagement, We did just, we hope everyone got an opportunity to read the newsletter. We, as of the last meeting, we were working on the translation services. I think that was, or on the translation of our, material. I think that was one of the questions that we received. So it has been translated into Spanish and Chinese, and those will be posted to the website. I think that they've literally just been finalized today. So, so we are, very excited about that. And again, this is, we will be making use of the Google Translate on the website, and using that, using that as a way of translation, but also the material that, is several pages long, or a document that, we can't use that, or that needs to be distributed widely, et cetera, will be translated. So we're very excited about that, and we'll share a link with Pratt to share that. And then we are very, very happy to announce, and again, this is the first time we're announcing this, that we are going to begin the call for art for the decorative construction fencing for the project. We already do have a few of the signs open up on the construction fencing now. It is, all of the information is on the website, so we could share that with you as well. We will have a pamphlet that you could see here. This is the draft version, but we'll have that to be distributed. And, it's K through 12 students and local artists. You can submit virtually or in person. If you go to the website, there are several different drop-off locations for the contest within the community, or for the call for art, excuse me, within the community. So it is, available for both electronic submission or in-person submission. We'll have drop boxes in those areas. The submission due date at this point is July 16th. And again, we'd be happy to take, I don't know if this committee, wants to review the information, and then maybe if you have, once you reviewed everything, if you have questions and you want to kind of put them all together and pass it along to Pratt, and send them along to us, then we could kind of answer everything all together. But we'd be more than happy to answer those questions. There are different artwork themes for the different grade levels. We have a selection committee made up of several community organizations and their community boards. So we're very excited about this. The panels would appear in PA1 and PA2. And yeah, we'd happy, to take any questions. Again, I think it might be better to review the information and then come back with questions, but we'd be happy to take any questions. So what we've heard, I know we do have the compost on here as a reoccurring item. This month, I know we had quite a large discussion at the last CB3 meeting. There is not a particular update this month. There may be at, our city representatives will be at the next CB3 meeting coming up later this month. But again, our representatives are not here. This isn't a topic for this month's CAG meeting. The funding, again, we had several funding questions and we have passed them along. They still are under city review, and we are hoping for a response in the very near future. And as soon as we have that, we'll send it over. We won't wait until in the next CAG meeting. Once we have those responses, again, we'll send over, or as it's released from the city, et cetera. And then, Jeff, I think you wanted to speak to the last bullet here. Is that correct?
Ophelia, if you're available.
Yes, I'm here. So
couple good news. We finally got approval from the city for the workforce letter. So as soon as my computer actually froze. So as soon as I can upload it now, I'll send it out to the CAG with your responses. And as Desiree said, in terms of the funding for the additional items for the project, we hope to have to share some pretty good news with you all. We hope to hear back pretty soon. So, stay tuned. And again, it's not that we don't want to share anything. It's just that the information is available as at the time. And as you know, a lot of this is, you can't rush it. You can't rush the responses. You can't rush the information. It's a lot of dense information to go through. So we appreciate your patience. We know it gets frustrating on all sides. So thank you for continually working with us. And we'll do our best to, crunch these information and responses and push it forward as well. Because it has to be reviewed, throughout the entire city. It's not just DDC, it's like agencies, City Hall. So it's a lot that goes into the responses and the reviews of these items. So yeah, for now, we have the workforce and we'll be working for the environmental. We have been working, we're just tying up some things. So that's my next push for the CAG. Thank you.
Thanks, Ophelia. And just, to mention, we do have, calls every other week with Pratt. So please, they are the kind of conduit to us between our CAG meetings. If there are items that you're particularly, interested in, again, I know we have addressed, several of the kind of questions related to, how soil and air and, in previous presentations. So, those are all available online. But again, if there are specific questions, it's just really helpful if, we do try to dedicate kind of each meeting to a topic. And again, we're open to answer all sorts of questions. But in the, to try to maintain a schedule and time and, try and work with you, because we know that, you have a meeting after this. It's helpful if we could be coordinated on the agenda. So please, reach out that way. But again, thank you all for being here with us tonight. And we're happy to take questions for the last part.
All right, so Martin, and then there's a couple of questions from Charles in the chat, but let's start with Martin.
Yeah, hi. Last week, the Stuyvesant Cove Park Association met with Nadine and a few members of the construction management at the park, and it was decided that we would be able to have our annual concert series, which would be starting in a couple of weeks. The schedule is currently being made. Would you be able to post the schedule in the newsletter and wherever?
Thanks, Martin. We may just need to take that back just to make sure. I don't want to give you a definitive yes or no, but we're certainly happy to talk to you about that offline if we can, if that's a possibility, and continue that conversation.
Great.
Great. That's great news also. I just wanted to mention that.
All right. So I'll read out Charles's questions. One is, who is reviewing the environmental letter? And second is, what kinds of complaints have you received regarding phase 2 construction?
Sure. For the environmental, we have folks at DDC as well as HNTV Liro. They're the environmental specialists. So they are reviewing and drafting responses. And after that, all of that needs to be fully vetted through our partnering agencies and City Hall. And then once that is done, then we give you the final letter. And what was the second question?
What complaints have you received so far? What types of complaints have you received regarding phase 2 construction?
Oh, the good news, we've received maybe one noise complaint so far. So it's pretty good. The contractor is very cognitive of the community, and he's trying to do his best to not make as much noise as possible. And he's being mindful in terms of the noise mitigation and as well as traffic impacts. So So he's been really working with us. As soon as we hear an issue like the noise or a traffic or someone saying, you know, we heard noise in construction at 3 a.m. at this part of the area, we look into it. We find that it wasn't our project. It was like emergency con ed work. So we're super responsive. We haven't heard much. Did I miss any other complaints, Desiree?
No, I think there was the noise complaint that we received also was in particularly when they were working in Astor Levy Park and they had hit, you know, the subsurface conditions are kind of different throughout the site. So there was, you know, the soil, the underground conditions was a little bit denser than some of the other areas, and it was louder, you know. And then we have been meeting, you know, we have kind of a follow-up call or check-in call with Skytown and Waterside, and you know, those are the folks who are kind of right there, you know, on top of the construction, and they have not, you know, as far as noise is concerned, there were some concerns about the intersection there, and we've been working with them and DOT to try and, you know, amp the signage. So it's been kind of more about the kind of intersection, and we're working through that as we change. You know, that area needs to change every, you know, month or so they can flip from north to south. You know, and so we've been working with them to kind of better inform the users in that area. But I think you got everything correct, Ophelia. Thanks.
All right, Wendy.
So today I happened to see on Instagram that Sty Cove is giving away its native plants, and they've put out a call to community gardens and all kinds of community spaces. Is that the kind of thing you're going to be able to put in the newsletter, given that they're located in the park and all of that?
I think if we are completing like an activity in conjunction with Solar One, that is probably something that we would put in the newsletter. But also, I think, you know, some of the activities that are being discussed, you know, the newsletter is kind of a quarterly newsletter, so it might not be, you know, on the same time frame. You know, it might, if they're doing it next weekend, you know, that's not something that would make sense to put into the newsletter. But I think, you know, we do have ongoing conversations with Solar One. Again, you know, we'll speak with Martin offline to see how, you know, the project and the community can work together. So I think that's something that will just kind of be an ongoing conversation. But that's good to hear.
Yeah, I was glad to hear too. Wanted members of this group to know about it in any case. LES Breathe has just purchased Purple Air monitors. So we're going to be setting up our own sensors, and it's going to be open data. And we're going to create some place where people can check it anytime. Is that the sort of thing you'd be able to put in the newsletter, a link to that?
Again, you know, you could certainly submit the question and we could take that back, but I believe because it is not part of the project, I'm going to say probably not, but again, I'm not the final authority. So if you want to submit that question through Pratt, we could certainly take it back.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did ask a question last month that was put forward to this month, and that what was the squirrel and wildlife plan? Any news on that? You said you'd check with parks by this meeting?
Yeah, we'll have to circle back, Tara and Paula, because we did get answers to all of these questions, and there were parts of the chapters of the FEIS we sent over. So I think maybe we'll have to circle back and then make sure that everyone has all the responses, because we did cite certain chapters of the FEIS, and then Parks also had kind of a little bit more specific response that we sent over. So please, we'll check in with Paula and Tara tomorrow and just make sure that they have all the answers, and then they could send them over.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, you know, we're not as DDC and the project management consultant, we don't speak for every city agency, but we certainly understand that things come up on this particular meeting that are not in DDC's purview. So what we do after every meeting is we gather all the questions and we send them out to our sister agencies and make sure that they're being addressed. So, you know, I just want to make it clear we are trying to be responsive here. If we have to figure out a better way to work with Pratt to get to those answers, we can certainly do that.
Any other questions? Oh, looks like, oh, sorry, Wendy again. Oh, you're muted.
I'm lowering my hand there. I didn't know you did it already.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. If that's the case, then we'll move over to the CAG only portion of the meeting. So thank you so much, HMTB Liro. Thank you so much, DDC, and all of the other agencies that are present at this meeting. And we'll just move over to the CAG only function. You all are free to go.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a minute break in between the two portions of the meeting.
Right, definitely feel free.
You guys in a minute.
All that good stuff.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're going to get started momentarily. Restarted, that is. Tara, you ready?
Yes.
Cool. So welcome back, everybody, to the CAG only conversation. Before we do that, again, I want to see if Senator Hoylman is in the House. I don't think so. Okay. So the first order of business is the fact that the votes are in. Oops.
Oh, are we going to do roll call?
Oh, should we do roll call? We can do that. Okay, so Tony's not here, I believe, because it's not raining and he has a baseball playoff. Io, you still with us?
Yes.
Camille Napoleon?
Yes.
Oh, hello, Camille. Charles?
Yep.
Still here? Chris Collins? No longer with us, maybe taking a break. Christine Bookin? Christine Dotz Romero,
Yes.
Damaris. Maybe she took a break. Daphne Williams. Doris Huff. Diane.
Yes.
Great. Dove Goldman.
Yes.
Felicia. Detachia. I know Frank's not here. He's on vacation. Fredina. Robin. Martin, you still here?
Yes, he's here.
Yes.
Mercedes. Michael Marino.
Here, but not for much longer.
Okay. Mike Arnon. Kyle. Nancy Ortiz. Wendy's here. Is Peter Davis here? Richard Heitler. Nadeem Siddiqui, by the way, he's the new rep from Town Peter Cooper Management. Are you with us, Nadeem? Oh, Damaris is telling us she's back. Sam Moskowitz, I think I saw you.
Here.
Okay, Seth Corin.
Here.
Susan Steinberg. And last but not least is Trevor, who is here but might have his camera off due to a weak signal. Okay, so back to the agenda. The first agenda item is really quick, and that's the fact that the votes are in. We have reached quorum, and the vote was overwhelmingly in favor to post these meetings online for people to view after the fact. So we will be doing that. We will be adopting that practice starting this month and moving forward. The second agenda item relates to a letter that Christine Dotz Romero drafted, in which she's outlining, the series of concerns that Lower East Side Ecology Center has. I only shared that with you today, so I don't really expect that many of you have, if any of you have read it, but I do want to turn it over now to Christine so she can kind of give us some highlights of and cover the main points of the letter. Christine, are you ready?
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I'm here all wired up. We have a little bit of noise going on downstairs. Yes, I drafted basically a letter that I would like the CAG to submit to the city with like outstanding questions that our organization has. And what I tried to really do is give a little bit of background, because I think being here in this park for 20 years, so there is a little bit of a backstory to some of these items that we don't seem to get straight answers from the city for the longest now. And so we outlined sort of the background of the items, and then also came up with questions, and then with requests. And the first one that comes to mind, of course, is the compost yard, which is so far not really settled. And we have really as a question why the compost yard was designed, that was developed, and that was promised to us to be implemented during ESCR is not in the bidding documents for ESCR. And yeah, and then the request is obviously to return the compost yard to its current location, using the design that was developed as a starting point for the design of that space. And then we also request that the compost yard operations should allow to continue to maximize the environmental benefits of this program as long as possible. The city is working on securing a different space for us to relocate the compost yard temporarily that site that they have identified is in Canarsie. It's half the size of our current location, so it's not very adequate for our needs, and so it doesn't meet all of our needs, and we need to really continue offer this program, which is very dear and near to lots of people in this community. And then the second issue is really the fireboat house, where we run environmental education and stewardship programs out of. And again, there is a rich history of us working with Parks Department and also with DDC to really think about how to harden, or rather adopt this, if you will, stranded asset to really make it a functioning location for East River Park once the park is opened up again after construction. And I just want to also just really emphasize that this building here is really the only space where there is location and space to run a stewardship program out of and environmental education. No other building in this park is really offering that. And so it is foremost on our mind to really understand how this building will be fixed up to really meet that need that we have to really provide environmental programming in this park. I think if we're saying we have a sustainable and resilient park and that addresses climate change, I think education is a huge part of that and needs to be here and have a home that is sustainable, that's resilient, and that's state of the art. And we unfortunately really not seeing the city making much efforts to communicate with us about the plans, and quite frankly, very much concerned that this building is not going to be finished once construction is done, because there is just very little movement to address all the outstanding issues that need to be fixed in this building. So that's sort of the second point. So we have a bunch of requests towards that. And then the third issue is really our license agreement. We do understand that we need to move out of this park, but what we really, in a nutshell, ask of the city and the Parks Department is to guarantee a return of all of our programs. And the most elegant way to do that is to just extend our license agreement that Parks has let expire in November. And so that is another thing that we are pushing for and that we really want answers from Parks, which we're really not getting a lot of communications from them about that. And then there is also the issue of programming during ESCR construction. There was a decade-long construction project from 2001 to 2012 in East River Park, rebuilding the promenade. And during that time, Parks actually hosted, gave us a space in office trailers down in the parking lot to continue having an administrative office, and our education and stewardship programs were run out of a storage container that Parks moved for us to the space that was section that was still open in this park. And we similarly want to see an effort made this time around to really ensure that the community can stay engaged in this park and stay engaged with the organization that has been the steward and and providing the public education programs that we have done for the last 20 years. There's really no reason to stop now or to bring these programs to a halt, because as we all know, once you stop something, it's very hard to start again. So that is basically it in a nutshell. It's a long laundry list, and I hope that people will have a chance to review this letter and also come up with other suggestions of what they feel is important for these different requests that we have. I'll stop talking now.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing that content with us. I saw that Martin had his hand raised.
Yeah, great letter. Very, very important. I think it should be directed at Steve Simon. He's the Assistant Borough Commissioner under Castro. He came to the CB6 Parks Committee this past week, and he seems to be very much on top of a lot of things within the borough. If you're going to get an answer, he would be able to answer it.
When it's finalized, we'll include Steve, and then I believe we're going to be circulating the same, or CCing the letter as well to the different city agencies as well as the local electeds.
And try to have your community board's parks committee get them in to discuss it as well. Because certainly the center is a great asset to the community, and the community board should be very much involved.
Do you want to respond, Christine?
Yeah, I mean, we have done this double parallel sort of track of really trying to get answers on the community board level, but also here at the CAG level. We have had a community board meeting last month where somebody from the mayor's office was there and somebody from sanitation. And so there's always seems to be one agency missing. I feel here at the CAG meetings, oftentimes there is no representation from parks, and a lot of the questions that we have might relate to them. We are definitely also, again, going to discuss the same issue at the June Parks subcommittee of CB3.
You should also go, if you're not getting an answer, go to the public advocate, William's office.
Great idea.
He wants to run for governor or something. So I would assume that he would be happy to do something.
Great suggestion. I will follow up with him. Yeah, thanks.
Wendy, I believe you're next.
I love the letter. I think it's terrific. And I just had a couple of questions. On page 2, it says questions, and I wondered why you didn't include the final design there. Why is the compost yard not incorporated into the bidding doc, or final design is my question. And you can put it in or not. Under the next thing is requests, and the second request uses the word hyper-local program, but I think it'd be more important to say local engagement in climate health and waste reduction program, because I've been to Union Square and I see people coming from all over with their food scraps. So it's not really just the Lower East Side. Even when you get there, it starts to be more of a city. So that's why I'm thinking to reiterate the point that it's and I can put it in the chat. So that was 2 comments. And then I think there's a typo under background where it has leak repair. The last bullet is leak repairs and repainting of all facades. I think that's supposed to be repointing of all facades. And that's it. Other than that, I thought it was a great letter. Here's that.
You're right, repointing.
Text that I mentioned.
We don't need to repaint.
Yeah. I think it's really good.
Other responses or questions?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look this over earlier. I'm really sorry, though I did promise you, Christine, I would. I also think it's a good letter. The only thing that I would do, regardless of the fact that you want to put a lot of background in there, is I would put less background in there, because those that it makes it too long otherwise. I think it just should be shorter and to the point. All the people who are going to be receiving this letter are people who are well aware of the background, you know. So I might rephrase it if you would give me a chance, or not, to really just say, in one paragraph, here's the history. Well, here's the problem. You haven't answered any questions or, made any arrangements for X, Y, and Z. Here's some history. Here are the questions again, and here are the request. I would make it really simple, because again, they all know the history. They understand the decades-old relationship of a Lower East Side ecology to the park, the benefit that the organization has provided and continues to provide, both to the ecology of the park as well as to the community. I just make it shorter. That's all.
Christine is scaled.
But I might be a lone voice there, Christine.
That's fine. I'm going in and out, but one question is, I am so focused on this compost pile. I've tried every agency, every park, every location. What about the solo site? Have you asked about that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Solar One?
No, so SOLO. It's in board 6 and it's huge. Big private with nothing on it.
Yeah, we are working on maybe inviting people to come and see our current operation. Somebody else also brought up this idea of the police pond, towing pond that was recently closed down. I think that's a 6-acre site in the 30s in Hudson River Park.
It's called Pier 76. I'm intimately aware of it. That would be the governor to decide. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the solo site is the one that when you're going up the FDR, it's vacant. It's immense.
Yeah, I know.
And they have no plans for it whatsoever.
Yeah, we're working on that, but haven't made much headway.
Okay, all right. So I will work on Pier 76 on the solo site. Sorry, I just want to check. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I know we'll recirculate. I believe, Christine, do you want to make some additional edits, and then we can circulate the letter out for approvals for next week?
Sure. I don't know whether whether we want to give people, more time to look at the letter, or whether.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of IO's suggestions. Did you want to take her suggestions, make some edits, and then we would circulate it out to the group for, I guess instead of having them comment now, if you're going to make some edits to shorten the letter.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I can, do the, take all the suggestions made in and shorten it a little bit, and then we can recirculate it. But I think it's really, timing wise, I think it's really important to get this letter out to the city so that hopefully they are prepared to come with answers, and with all the agencies involved in this to our next CAG meeting.
Absolutely.
So would you say, Christine, that would you say that we should that you'll circulate it and that we should approve it by no later than Wednesday of next week? Is that too late, or is that okay? I'm asking.
I guess it's just, Christine, it's just a matter of when, like, how quickly can you get the edits turned around, and then we can recirculate. But I think if we can get it out for everyone tomorrow, we can circulate it with a Wednesday vote date.
That sounds good. So with this, that would be the 16th.
No, the 9th. That's the 9th.
The 9th.
Oh, the 9th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ahead of my. Yes, the 9th. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so just to repeat, everybody, you will have until, Christine's going to turn that around, the changes around the minor edits quickly, hopefully by tomorrow, and you'll have until next Wednesday, June 9th to comment. But
And we
otherwise,
will
it'll be,
email the entirety of the CAG too, to let them know.
yeah.
Yeah, to comment and also to vote that we're sending this out,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. The next agenda item, I think, is about the newsletter. Yeah, so at last month's meeting, we brought up the idea of having a CAG produced newsletter to engage more of the community in not just ESCR, but what the CAG has been doing to advocate to make ESCR a better project, a better process. I heard back, and then I followed up in an email after last month's meeting, and reminded you guys of that idea. And only one of you, unless I missed that email too, but I heard from Damaris, who expressed interest in being part of creating a newsletter. Obviously, we as Pratt Center could lend a lot of support to this. We have a new fabulous summer intern who is a neighborhood resident who was actually here for the first hour, but she had to leave. But Tara and I can work with her to have her help out with actually, producing this newsletter. So just want to put out another call to see if there's interest in being on some sort of subcommittee to put this together.
I think that could also be a good means to share some of the information like Martin that you shared and some other items. But in the interim, I mean, if those things, Martin, if you could send that to us, we can share it with the CAG and distribute it more widely as well.
Thank you.
Specific to events.
Setting up a newsletter, though, unless you have information and people to write it, would be problematic to put out one edition and not see it again.
No, absolutely. But I think if we can we definitely need more CAG member participation on that end. And I think once we get a template, I think design-wise, content we would really need to rely on the CAG. But in terms of getting a template together, getting the design together, I think we can definitely internally within Pratt provide assistance on that end. But again, as you're right, we do need to make sure that we have content. I mean, we could also determine what the frequency is. Maybe it's not every month, or maybe we have to talk a little bit more about it. But I really would encourage you all, if you could participate in some capacity in getting that together. I think that would be great. Just in terms of making sure that we have continued communications out to folks. And then speaking of which, for some reason I cannot. Paula, do you have the link to the ESCR page now?
Yeah, I can put that in the chat.
Yeah. And then to that end, at least for the interim, we did ask DDC to provide a separate page. I know that it's been very, very difficult for people to identify past meeting summaries and presentations. So we have asked DDC to separate that out, which they have. So we'll put that link in the chat, and we'll also email that all to you as well after the meeting. Just so it's a little bit easier. I think there's still some content that's missing that will be posted up soon, but I just wanted to let you all know. I know that there's been some concerns about where people can access CAG specific information, and I know it hasn't been easy to find, but we've now been able to get it on a separate page for people to access.
I'm sorry, I was interrupted by my son, so I sort of missed the end of that newsletter conversation and where we landed there.
So I think we could put the call out again, but if there's anyone here who'd like to express interest in working with Damaris and Mira, who is our fellow for the summer, we can definitely start to work on getting a newsletter together. So we'll put the ask out to the other members as well who aren't here.
I just want to also say that I'm in general support of a newsletter, and can lend some support to helping to structure it and possibly maybe content. I do think though that there's some general education or information that people need if we're gonna be issuing a newsletter, and I guess some of us will, share it with our members or our participants, people need to have a sense of what's really happening. And we get a lot of questions from our members constantly. So even though we'll be doing this, there are other efforts that we internally at Goals are working on and already work on, where we circulate information about, like, not so much everything that's happening at the CAG as much, but sort of like a frequently asked questions. And so if you see that, I don't want anybody to see that and be like, wait, but you did it. It looks like a newsletter. It's not. It's just our internal, and we have a right as, as a community organization and residents who work on this to share that information with our community. So if you see that, please don't think that we went ahead and did this on our own. It is not the same kind of stuff, but it is in its own way, in that the content is about the ESCR, but it's not this newsletter. We have our own newsletter and our own stuff, which goes out to thousands of people. So, and whatever we share is, we try as much as possible to be very even about, any of the facts. And our opinion, well, then that's our opinion, but, we haven't really been issuing any opinion pieces recently because we've been inundated with everything NYCHA and the blueprint and the transformation for change, which I don't know if anybody here knows what I'm talking about, but if you do know what I'm talking about, then you also know that the legislation to create the Preservation Trust at the state level has been withdrawn as of yesterday. Thanks to all the advocates and resident leaders who've been working on this. It doesn't mean that it's a dead issue, but it's not going to pass this session. And so we bought ourselves 6 more months of avoiding any sort of financial mechanisms that can force public housing to not exist in the future for now. So that's what I have been knee deep in. And now I'm coming up for a little bit of air. So thanks for letting me say that.
Sure.
Thank you. Wendy, is your hand raised?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really about the webpage you just pointed us to, the Community Advisory Group webpage. I'm still looking for any meeting minutes or notes other than the presentation that the city agencies have made.
So the minutes are noted at the summary, and as I mentioned, they're still putting things up. So we are going to have the meeting summaries up. So those are the minutes, and I know that it looks like we're missing a few. So we're working on getting those up.
Because I clicked one that said summary, and it's the 1-page newsletter. That was the meeting number 5 summary. Oh. It's not our stuff. It's
they mislinked. It looks like they mislinked that.
Yeah, I think they mislinked that one. If you look at the other ones, there's summaries, but thanks for flagging that one. We'll get that one correct.
Yeah, that's the only one I looked at. So I was like, what is this?
Which one was it? Number 5?
Number 5.
5, yeah.
Okay.
Number 5. We'll check the other links as well.
And are you going to be putting up the attendance as well?
The attendance is part of the meeting summaries.
The meeting summaries, because today again there's like 15 people not here, and I know some people like I know Val replaced Frank, which is what the guideline said. If you're not going to make it, you should have someone replace you. How can we get more of us to show up at the meetings?
That is something we're working on. Like I think we mentioned last month, I mean, it could be the potential. We have not had anyone come to us explicitly and say, this time doesn't work for me. So we're going to basically go back around and make sure that is the case. Maybe some people feel that, well, they're trying to make it work because it seems to work for other folks. So we are considering maybe changing the time if it will accommodate other folks. So you may see another poll going around. But we do just understand that right now, I mean, there are people who have been here pretty regularly and just aren't here today. So we are going to just, again, make sure that people know that they are able to send alternates. I mean, unfortunately, it is a bit of a time for folks, so we are trying to be, extend as much grace as possible. And we know that there are some challenges in folks being able to attend, so we're working through it.
So is there any kind of a
I have my hand.
mechanism
I have
in the guideline?
Hand raised.
I'm still talking though. I
So-
see your hands up.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Wait,
in the middle of a question.
I know. I think what happened, Wendy, you just got really choppy, so it looked like it sounded like you stopped.
Yeah.
Right, but I just also wanted all of us to have an opportunity to have input and to, have a say as well about all of the issues that are brought up in this meeting. I would just like to say, and my hand is up for once, it usually is not. I would just like to say on the time of the meeting, I've had 5 meetings today. It is a heavy lift for me on Thursdays. And, there's a lot, that we have to cover and absorb. It would be much better for me if it was not at the end of the day, even if it were in the middle of the day, like at 12 noon or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. But, after all of the other things that, we're all doing, to have to spend, an hour and a half at the end of the day in a meeting like this is not the best thing for me. So if you are considering changing the time, I would recommend that it be changed to early afternoon at the very least. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Damaris?
We're not going to find a perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
Thursdays are crazy for me. Tuesdays are crazy. Wednesday's crazy. You get it, right? Every day's crazy.
What about Saturday?
Saturday, if you call me on Saturday, you're not even going to get a response, unless there's an emergency in the community, this meeting overlaps with another meeting, but but we only have it once. So, it was through great pain that I went through to make myself available for this time. So, I would really like to just weigh in too and say, please don't change it from Thursday, because I can't do anything on Tuesday, and Wednesdays is a hard day unless we do it early. And so, yeah, maybe a little earlier on Thursday. I don't know. It's always busy for me. So I'm just saying, I guess I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that at this point, I'm kind of okay with what we have, but you'll have to do what you have to do. And if not everybody's going to be able to be present all the time, including me.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
And Io knows all about that because I couldn't even make it to our own LES Ready meeting today.
I'm listening to you and I'm laughing, but you're right. There's no perfect time.
Right.
Making it any earlier, I would not be able to attend. I'm cutting out a couple of hours out of my work day to come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that there's work concerns. That's why we were
And Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, maybe, but any again, any earlier than 4 o'clock just wouldn't work.
Okay, Christine, then Wendy.
Yeah, I was shaking my head, please no Friday. And also, I would say the same thing, that I hear what you're saying, Ayo, it would be nice to have it a little bit earlier, but I think also some people really step away from work to participate here, and, putting it more in the middle of the day might just really prevent even more people from participating. But I wanted to just also quickly talk about our meeting in July, because July 1st is a Thursday, and do we want to go ahead with that meeting, or do we want to push it to the next week, which would be July 8th? Just, to also just figure out what we're doing in July.
Yeah,
and whether anybody has strong preferences one way or another.
I think that was definitely, that's also on our agenda. I think Trevor might have dropped off. I'll check to see if it's on their on the CB3 website, but the second Thursdays are generally the Parks Committee meetings, and I'm not sure if they're holding one in July. So that's really what another reason why we picked this first Thursday, because also we know that I believe third Thursday, a lot of night shift TA meetings happen that day. So in trying to accommodate, that's really why we picked this first one. So ideally what we could do, I guess, yeah, just getting ahead of ourselves. We did want to get your everyone's sense as to whether or not they wanted to have a meeting on the 2nd or the 1st. Is it July 1st? And then if we did, what we could do is maybe have a truncated meeting. So either, and maybe just not have DDC, HNTB, Lero attend, or and then just meet for an hour CAG only, or we can still just maintain the 2-hour meeting, still have them come in, because we still know that there's some outstanding questions. So we wanted to run that past you all. Wendy?
Just to echo what Damaris said earlier, they really need to come in with answers. They have promised month after month. It's not unlike the community board, but this group is supposed to be able to get answers directly. And I really feel that it's very disrespectful to this group that they push it off. And I'm just going to say that air quality report is something that was really core to this the purpose of the CAG is to get that information. I can understand it's the first quarter, they might want to format it, but now they're acting like it's going to be quite a while. So to me, to say to them, don't come in July is not a good idea. And that we should really have from them, and if they're conveying information to you as well, that's there should be a clear conveyor belt to get these answers. That's what I thought the CAG is supposed to be doing, is being this responsive board, and yet we're asking questions and not getting responses. So it's very frustrating. And I hope that this message can be clearly to them that they need to show up. We're here, we're not being paid. They're all on the clock, right? We're all putting, right? And maybe they aren't all on the clock, Damaris is saying.
No, some of us are getting paid. I'm not going to be untransparent.
Okay, but many of us are not.
Goals,
Okay. But in any case, this is the only body, right, set up for this purpose, for this gigantic process. And yet they're not coming to the table ready. I'll stop there.
Dove?
If I can, I'm sorry, did I skip somebody?
Yeah,
Forgive me.
Dove raised his hand, and then after, and Damaris, could you can go after.
Sorry, going back on changing the time, I think that there are a lot of people who also work. So, I mean, I have to reiterate, I agree with what Martin said. I don't think changing it to earlier would be better for a lot of people. And I know that everyone's schedule, it's just going to be next to impossible to have that one sweet spot for everyone. Additionally, Friday wouldn't work for me at all for religious reasons, especially after the summer as the Sabbath starts earlier.
Yeah, and Dove, in response to that, by the way, excuse me, Io put in the chat that she oh, hello, Io again, that she withdraws her suggestion to move the meeting earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
And we would definitely try to accommodate. And I think it might be, again, we want to have more. We're going to have one-on-one conversations with folks who have, not been in attendance to get an understanding. I have a feeling they would probably prefer something later in the day. So we'll circle back. But again, I mean, it's true. I don't know if we'll get everyone. Granted, we did have some drop off, but we did have quorum at some point, so that's not bad, especially given that it's we knew that some people were on vacation and things of that sort. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. But we do, going back to just July, everyone's thoughts about having a meeting in July. We could do like what we did and have a CAG only meeting. I do think based off a lot of the outstanding questions that we have from DDC, I think having them come back might be ideal. Maybe we could just do a DDC session And if it helps to just have a 1-hour meeting, I think for the most part, yeah, I don't know if anyone's has planned time off. We can circle back around to the group, but we wanted to get your thoughts today as to whether or not we should have a meeting in July.
Damaris.
Thank you. So first, I was just being funny before, but it is true. Some of us are wearing our professional hats here, and these meetings are available to the public, and I think it's important for some of us to be honest, but we're not per se being paid to be here, right? This is part of what we do. The second thing is, I think that yes, and in the evening is better around the time for all the reasons outlined. If we were still to consider changing it, Tuesday maybe could work. Hear me out real quick, stay with me. Since people are talking about like Thursday and late, maybe it's also like it's the end of the week and so people are kind of done, so maybe earlier in the week. But if we did that, I would only say that we have to really pay attention so that it doesn't fall like on the same day of the community board meetings, because that's a lot. That could happen, maybe like Tuesday at 4 or something, or 4:30 if people thought Tuesday was a better day, and it would be earlier in the week, so maybe we wouldn't be so damn drained. I don't know, just a thought that I wanted to put out there. In terms of July, I think, if we have business to conduct, that we should continue with our meeting in July. I don't think that we should cut the meeting down and have it be CAG only, because part of this is all about having the city come and talk to us. But I do think that we have to reiterate for them, what their role is, and be very clear that if they're going to, if they're not able to answer our questions at a meeting and they say that they're going to circle back, that they have to honor their commitment to us or communicate to us that they're not ready, rather than have us come here month after month and engage in this unnecessary back and forth when we have so much to do. I don't want to spend my time arguing with the city about why they're not ready. I want to spend my time asking the questions, being as efficient as we can. And then who knows, maybe we won't need an hour and a half or two if we could get this ball rolling. And that's what I think is important to convey to them. If we're going to ask them questions, I don't expect that they're going to have the answers to everything all of the time. I understand it's a lot of information, it's a lot of data, but they cannot keep saying things to us like, we're going to go back and we'll come back next month, or we'll get back to you, and leave it open-ended. That is just inappropriate for this setting. And I think that it's a violation of this process and the agreement that I believe we have in coming together to work with them around this. So we're expected to show up. We're expected to come with questions. We're expected to bring information back to our community. We expect them to come prepared or to be clear when they cannot do that, so that we know what to expect and we can conduct our business accordingly. And that's how I feel about that. So no, I don't think we should change the meeting. I don't think we should cut it down, but we should let them know what it is that we expect from them. And then if they don't honor that, we can have another conversation in a couple months.
Diane, then Martin.
My 2 cents.
Thank you. Diane?
Yeah, Damaris, you just said it, everything that I was thinking, but better than I would have said it. I agree. I think that whoever can make it in July should be here. And I think that we need to have a DDC section of the meeting. We've got requests that were not honored today. They've promised to come back to Community Board 3 next week with an update and all of the relevant agencies to talk about the situation with the Ecology Center and the Compost Yard. What if they don't do that? Then we should be here in July to follow up and ask them why that happened and hold them accountable about that. And I'm willing to do that, because I think that staying on top of this and making sure that we don't give them the feeling that it's okay with us if things slide is really important.
Martin, I think you're next.
Yeah, if you're think if there's thought of changing the meeting, how about sending out a doodle so that people can register what they think.
Yeah,
The
sure.
first Tuesday, by the way, is CB6 Parks Committee.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll definitely send it. We would not change it without doing a broader poll. So we will send a doodle out. But we do want to have, again, like the focus conversations with folks first before to see if the time is an issue or if there are other constraints. And then if it looks like, you know, there is an overwhelming concern about the current time, we'll consider moving it. But I do think Damaris is right. You know, we're definitely wiped by this time. So maybe moving it might be of benefit. Thank you, Damaris. All right, so I don't hear anyone up in opposition to not having a meeting next month. So at the moment, we are going to plan to have a July 1 meeting. Diane, did you have something else? No, okay, sorry, I think I might not have lowered your hand. So we can continue. I think there's a couple more agenda items, Paula.
Yeah, excuse me. So I guess just kind of wanted to give you a heads up about the creation of bylaws or essentially transforming what exists now, which are kind of guidelines, you know, internal protocols for how the CAG should operate. But we want to start a process of kind of formalize that and making them official bylaws. You know, again, we're not going to start that conversation today, but just kind of a heads up that we want to start that process this summer. Do you want to add anything to that, Tara?
Really, definitely. I mean, not only just formalizing what we have, but of course expanding out to address some other concerns that happen with the group. So we do have some good models and templates that we can model the bylaws off of. So definitely we'll start that conversation this summer.
That's it as far as the agenda that we have prepared, I believe.
Well, I did have my hand up, just to say that if you're looking at those guidelines toward forming some kind of bylaws, it really should include something about people who miss meetings repeatedly, other than, you know, find a sub and inform you, because right now there's no mechanism for encouraging people to come regularly or to replace them. So I just want to put that out there as something that should be considered.
Is there anything else? Okay, if nothing else, we can give you all your 13 minutes back.
I'd like to thank President Brewer for reappointing me to the community board. I've been on since Ruth Messenger put me on in '91. It's been a pleasure, though Councilmember Kalos several years ago has now made term limits. So those of us who have historic knowledge of what the community boards have been doing over the years will be lost very shortly. There's now an 8-year max. Oh, well. Thank you, President Brewer.
And then also just to let you all know, in terms of next steps with regards to the recording of this video, please give us some time. We will be having our fellow work on it. It'll likely be a YouTube link, but we have to get it downloaded. We have to get it all set up. So I will be having her work on that next week. So we should have a link for you all in a week's time. All right, so yeah, I'll give you now your 11 minutes back. Thank you all. I'll see you, we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Oh, since you're downloading videos, what I learned doing this is if you put it live to YouTube from the beginning, it's much easier to share. A lot of people don't get into Facebook. It's confusing to find it there. But if it's on YouTube from the beginning, it's very clean and easy to manage.
Thank you for the tip.
Okay, well, good night, everybody, and thank you again for participating. Bye.